The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering Co-op Advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, we'll discover the wealth of cinematic riches that are coming to East Hampton as part of the 4th East Hampton Film Festival with organizer Chris Ferry.
We'll also hear from Jeremy and Rebecca Macomber-Dubbs and Chris Goodwin, who are all involved in the very Western Mass-oriented feature Tallywhacker, which will get its 413 premiere as part of the festival's lineup.
But first, we look to a tiny sequestered bundle of 11 acres in the northwest of Springfield,
where agriculture is meeting its neighbors' call and hitting the ground running.
And Todd, what's your last name?
Crossett.
Crossett and Richmond, right?
Right.
Okay,
2 T's or 1 T?
1 T.
1 T. Well, you still have to cross it.
Yes, you do.
Yes, Ariana Lamb. I need fresh blood.
Yeah.
People who are not used to have to hear my jokes all the time.
It's not me.
Time for another Local Hero Spotlight with Claire Morneau from CISA, the local hero, folks. Both Claire and I, at least, and maybe Khalees too, thought our GPS had taken us to the wrong place. Because I was like, we're in Springfield, we're down the end of this residential neighborhood. This cannot be the farm that we're going to.
No, I knew it was 5 minutes from my house. And because I also on my street have one of those signs that looks like everyone abandoned this road years ago, which there are an alarming amount of in Springfield.
And lo and behold, there's a little paradise at the end of the street. What's your name?
Ann Richmond,
Todd Crossett.
And you are the farmers here. What's the name of your farm?
Nordica Street Community Farm.
It is a community farm. It's literally right in a neighborhood. And the only reason I knew that the farm was here is because I went a little bit further than I was planning on. I could see there was a greenhouse. So tell us about the lay of the literal land.
It's just a gem in Springfield. I don't think there's anything like it. It was a farm, obviously, many, many years ago. And in 2010, a developer purchased it and clear-cut and stripped all this front piece of land here until the neighbors went to the Conservation Commission and begged them to please do something. And he finally started clear cutting behind the house back into that watershed. And once he went there and overstepped the watershed boundary, they were able to shut him down. And then 2015, a couple bought it, Casey Hale and Matt Fletcher. Casey was our children's environmental science teacher at Renaissance School. I knew that she had this 11-acre piece of land, and I couldn't imagine where it was. And then during the pandemic in 2020, they decided to move as a family closer to family in Virginia. And she said, Ann, please help me find somebody who will keep the property intact and farm it if possible. They had chickens and bees here, and also put in this little orchard over here and replanted a lot of the trees that were cut down. So I did my best to try to find somebody else to be here and failed. And then I came and saw it myself. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is such an amazing spot. You could just feel it when you're here. And I said to Todd, what would you think if we bought it ourselves? You know, this would be an amazing thing to do. I worked at gardening in the community for years. So I was already in the urban ag food world and very committed to that. But so I knew how meaningful and important having a place like this in Springfield could be.
Todd.
Somehow I persuaded him to come along on the journey.
Todd, what were you doing before you were convinced to buy the farm?
I was a baker downtown at Granny's Baking Table.
Oh,
Yeah, that's where I recognize you from.
which was right around the corner from the old NEPM studios.
Right. And Kari and Jerry was one of my favorite customers.
One of the best dressed men in all of Springfield.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was such a wonderful treat to walk from our parking lot down to the station in our old spot and just give into temptation and walk in to Granny's and pick up whatever was left because I always got there way too late to get anything I really wanted.
Did either of you have any real, you had gardening in the community, but farming experience?
No, neither one of us really. We're young farmers, but we're old.
Our friends were like, you what? You're going to what? I mean, we're in our 60s, this is not a common thing to do. But it's a real passion project, and we've just been learning, and we have, CISA has been huge. They've helped fund a mentor for us in the past couple of years. And then we were a mentor farm with UMass, the new urban ag department at UMass Extension. Ibrahim Ali brought UMass Extension folks down to help kind of coach us and teach us last year. So being a farmer, it requires such intelligence and knowledge in so many multiple fields. It's really remarkable.
And urban farming presents its own challenges.
This farm never would have happened without GTC. The young people and the mentors I had at Gardening the Community, they taught me pretty much everything I know and gave me the courage to try. You know, I wasn't sure we would succeed because the soil had been stripped. There was no topsoil. And in some areas, like where the orchard is and some other areas, clay had been dumped. There were no worms out here. When we first started, like all the plants were kind of withering, and I thought they just weren't watering properly, but it turned out that the issue was much deeper than that. So, you know, we've been helping the soil recover. We had mounds of wood chips on site and leaf mulch and cardboard and just all the ways that GTC has improved their soil at their places in Springfield. We have used some of the same tactics here to try to bring it back to life, and it's coming back to life.
Claire Morneau of CISA.
So you've been learning and you've been restoring the soil and getting things started, but you're also growing food. How long have you actually been growing food for sale? What does that look like?
This is our 4th season. And the first season was just to friends because I wasn't sure what would happen. Like it was a little nerve-wracking. But we have a small CSA, so we have 20 families that are part of our CSA. And then we have a weekly farm stand on Wednesdays. You know, there's probably 100 or more families that have engaged with the farm in some way. We also have a community herb garden, that's been run by a group of women who are interested in either having medicinal herbs or learning more about medicinal herbs, that we're going to create an access point where you all parked so that people can come and just really be in that space on their own, just relax and have a peaceful place to be. And then Todd has been working on also some trails back in the woods that we hope the public will use to access the Abbey Brook conservation land that's behind us.
Are you farming on the same amount of land that you started on 4 years ago and just been seeing how much you can get out of that parcel, or have you been expanding? And do you know how much of the 11 acres is actually farmable?
We started quite small. I mean, GTC has been amazing because our children went through GTC, so we have 2 adult children, and they have been instrumental in growing the farm. We're up to about 30 rows of various lengths now, when we started with about 10 half rows. You can farm much more than we are going to farm. We're pretty much tapped out at this point. A couple more rows here and there, but we're going to stop at this point and keep it a nice little community farm. Somebody else could come in and expand beyond the high tunnel back there. And
meaning another farmer, potentially? You know, there are places like in Northampton where there is Grow Food Northampton that has several farms on one city's plot of land. So
is this the same thing with Winter Moon and the farm that's in front of it that I can't remember?
A flower farm, yeah. Many grace.
We do organic practices in a number of ways,
yeah.
And one will be, how does this farm extend beyond us? And that will happen organically, but that's the goal, is to keep this a farm for a long, long time.
We're speaking with Todd Crossett and Ann Richmond from Nordica Street Community Farm, which is an urban farm in Springfield that is serving, slowly but surely growing, but serving members of the community. If only there was a community member here who is one of the CSA members who could tell us about their experience. Oh, wait, what's your name?
My name is Ariana Williams.
To make it sound like she popped up out of the ground like a daffodil.
I love that when you'd be like at this old house and people would like turn around and be like, oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
I didn't see you there.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you come in there.
Ariana, first, you are the Chief of Public Health Strategy and Innovation at MLK Junior Family Services, Mason Square, Springfield, which we love, but you're here as a civilian participant in the farm program.
Yes, MLK loves you too, by the way.
Oh!
But yes, I'm here as a CSA member and a community member, and my first job ever was GTC under Ann's leadership.
Oh, cool.
So I have a long history, but I agree when Ann says this is a gem, that really resonates with me, because you come here and you feel like, it's a twofold. You come here and you feel like you're not in Springfield, but then you walk away and you're like, oh, I'm still in Springfield.
Yeah.
So it just feels so surreal, and it's like a whole world of like education and like camaraderie and community. Like you can get so many things here besides food. But getting the food here for now my second season, it's been a growing process for me because, you know, I'm committed to getting these vegetables every week and figuring out what I'm going to do with them and really tapping into my roots, making hot sauce, making seasonings, dehydrating things, blending up things or whatever I have to do to make sure I'm using them, which I love. I love the challenge of that because it's only for so long. And then when I have to go back to the grocery store for vegetables, I'm like, oh, that sucks.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a challenge for me that I love, and every season I feel like I get better at it. I meet different people, I look up different recipes, and whenever I need help, like I have a community of people and CSA members. I'm splitting a share this year, which I love because it'll be with someone else, and I plan on communicating with that person and seeing what they're doing with their vegetables. It's an opportunity to connect with someone else. But yeah, I think people don't realize, how surreal it is here and serene, and I'll come and just like not do anything but sit back there because it's a little like bench back there, and I just can close my eyes, and that's like therapy. This is like a therapeutic place to be.
Yeah. The circular saw in the background that's going on, not always happening. There is a barn being rebuilt, yeah?
It's actually our very first project. We said this is what we were going to do. 5 years later, we're finally getting around to it. It's a challenge. The foundation needs to be replaced and the barn needs to be saved. So right now they're trying to stabilize the barn, and then around the outside of the old barn we're going to build new, and we'll put a farm stand, a wash pack station, and dry storage, cold storage, and maybe a little bakery.
Ooh, get back to your other roots.
Well, it will be a kitchen out of which baked goods will come, but it won't be like a standalone.
Just for the farm stand.
I'm curious to hear any of you speak to just the importance, I guess, of urban agriculture. It's not just this farm. There's Gardening the Community, which we've mentioned. Many of the urban centers around our region have some sort of agricultural program. So I'm curious just your perspective on what a farm brings to a city in terms of food. You talked a little bit about the community piece. Just why does it matter to have agricultural projects in cities?
Ariana?
Yes. Springfield, there's a lot of different parts of Springfield that are food deserts, which means that those people don't have, fresh, affordable, locally grown produce in their area that they can access. And you have to think about it, if someone, has 5 kids and does not have a car, like where they're actually getting their food from and what their environment is producing for them. And 9 times out of 10, it's not something like this. So urban agriculture is extremely important. We have high rates of diabetes and asthma and obesity and things of what have you, but we have corner stores on every corner and bodegas and liquor stores. This is what we need. Urban ag exists, I think, to fill that gap. Now, having full grocery stores in the area and thinking about using the bus line and thinking about the bag limit on the bus line.
Tell us about that, because some people don't know that this exists.
Yeah, there's a bag limit on the PVTA. It's two bags. So if you have 5 kids and you're a single mom, I don't know that you're gonna waste your time getting 2 bags of groceries to bring home to your 5 children and you. You might eat fast food because it's cheaper, it's readily available, and it's not that far. But urban ag exists to again fill those gaps. GTC and Nordica Street are in areas where people this is their only choice for fresh, affordable, local produce, opposed to grocery stores that they can't get or that are really overpriced. And cultural crops and what people are used to eating, because people might go to the doctor and someone says you need to lose weight or you need to improve your diabetes, and that has to do with your nutrition, but they're not giving you the resources to do so. It kind of takes everyone to fix that. So this is a huge part, just having the access. And then there's education and community, but the access is the biggest piece where people can say, this is for me and I can use this. this is a part of like how I should live my life, but that's really hard to do in survival mode.
Yeah.
So urban ag is a part of shifting that into like a living piece where you can actually focus on what you're eating, and put time into things like gardening and farming, because you put it out and it gives back to you.
The other piece of it is that you have to be responsible to your community. You're not responsible to the wholesalers or the grocery stores. You're responsible to your community. So when somebody comes and says, "Oh, could you grow okra?" we say yes, and then that feeds the community. It feeds people's roots, and it's a plant that crosses over so many cultures, but it's not one that you're going to pick up at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. And so that we can fill that gap seems really, really important.
And it's so pretty when it blooms. When okra blooms, it's gorgeous. Yeah. There's an importance of agriculture in cities as green spaces as opposed to parks. Like seeing food grow in those spaces, like trapping carbon, making air cleaner, and having your food come from that too is really important in urban areas that a lot of spaces don't necessarily get a chance to have.
We do pretty much everything by hand. We have some diesel for our tractor, which we use very minimally. We don't use it to till. We don't turn over the soil at all. So we're keeping that carbon in the soil. We're protecting the life in the soil. And as we learn, we really love to share those learnings with the people that are coming here. So For example, with UMass, every time we had a UMass extension person come down, we opened it up to the community. So we'd have these gatherings and we'd all learn about pest identification and scouting and, ways of bringing in the good bugs versus, to eat the bad bugs, for example. We found spotted lanternfly here.
Oh, dear.
It's here in Springfield quite a bit now.
Dumping worms, too.
Yes, we have those, too. Each challenge, we're like, okay, there's others that are going to want to learn about this with us. So we just opened it up. We had lots of neighbors here for the spotted lanternfly because we're like, we have them. You probably will have them. Here's what to do. Like what Todd was saying, the accountability to the community. Farms can do so much. We're just one little piece of addressing some of the ways that racism shows up in our food system, the ways that food systems don't work for people with, limited economic means, for example. But if we're an accountable farm, we can go through each decision we make and think, okay, obviously we have to have the economics work at some level for us, but how do we price? Do we have a sliding scale? Do we have some shares that we make available to folks who can't afford the price, for free? And we do, or what seeds do we buy? Which seed companies do we buy from? What are we growing? How much space are we allocating to some of these cultural crops? Like collard greens is a big one, the okra, the kinds of beans we grow. The peppers, I grew Trinidad pimento peppers last year and for one customer who asked me, and she was so, it made my year to see her, smile on her face. Ají dulce, that's another pepper that is so important to a particular community of people. So when you develop those relationships, there's a mother-daughter who come here and the mom has come from Mexico. She wants the garlic with the big stems on it. That's what she wants. That makes her happy. So I don't cut the stems little anymore, because she comes and buys me out, or she wants the marigolds, around Day of the Dead festivals. So there's so many ways that we can adapt and incorporate and be a place that is truly welcoming to everybody and reflects the full diversity of our community here, which is an amazing richness, cultural richness that we have in Springfield. We love being in Springfield.
Up next, we get up close and personal with the plants and layout of Nordica Community Farm with owners Ann Richmond and Todd Crossett, as well as CSA member Ariana Williams and volunteer Richard Andrews.
Then away we will wander to East Hampton to talk with folks about the 4th East Hampton Film Festival and its feature film premiering in Western Mass, Tallywhacker.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Real Pickles, a worker-owned cooperative in Greenfield, producing organic fermented vegetables sourced from Northeast farms. More information at realpickles.com.
We're looking at an onion tunnel.
This is garlic. These are cover crop, and then this will be potatoes at the end of the day.
That's spinach that overwintered. That survived the whole winter, and it's delicious. Rhubarb? Yes, rhubarb is a cultural crop. More onions. And yay, scallions. Rhubarb. Yay, rhubarb?
Yay, rhubarb.
Yes, it's I love rhubarb. I grew up on rhubarb.
Greens and rhubarb and lamb. And I can't...
Really?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. You wouldn't think that savory rhubarb would be a really good, interesting thing, but I can't talk it up enough.
So Monty, this is something we learned over the last 2 years, is planting plants that attract beneficial insects. So at the end of the rows here, we have alyssum. That's going to grow up, and that will, their larvae will eat the aphids. What do we got here, Ann?
Your lacinato, and then curly kale, and then I'm going to do a white Russian.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if your stepmother is a nympho, but, I don't see what this has to do with, you have any Kahlua?
Oh, I'm thinking of something else.
Your dude abides.
A Caucasian.
Collard greens here.
We have one customer, she's originally from Liberia, and we complained to her about our loss of sweet potato leaves, and she goes, "Oh, will you sell those to me?" So it was between Paula and the groundhog to get the sweet potato leaves.
I had no idea that was a very valued crop in certain communities. So it's a little bit of a conflict because you also want the sweet potatoes to grow and they need their leaves to grow. But we did harvest some of those for her.
We're speaking with Todd Crossett and Ann Richmond from Nordica Street Community Farm, which is an urban farm in Springfield.
We love being in Springfield. We lived in McKnight for many years, 25 years. around the corner from Liz.
Liz Ogilvie, a legend of urban ag and food justice.
Yes, and we had no intention of leaving our house, which we loved. Absolutely no intention. It was only something like this that could pull us away. So we love reconnecting, connecting with the various neighborhoods, but especially the neighborhood around here.
This is Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Richard just came in.
Nice to meet you.
Tell us what you do here, Richard.
I volunteer, helping out with the farm, trying to make it better. Somebody who comes from a neighborhood that doesn't really see much farms in a city like this, it's like a deep breath to see this type of thing and be able to help with it and make it better for somebody like me. I really appreciate these guys, you know what I mean? It's a big thing, you know what I mean? It's a big thing. Even though majority of people might see it as a small thing, it's a big thing because it's going to be times where it's this stuff is needed.
How did you hear about this going on to come and what made you want to come volunteer?
Through my godmom, honestly. I was going through some things work related and my godmom was just looking for me some work to do, and she know I'm a hard worker, so she just introduced me to these guys, and they're good people. So
nice.
It's
So what kind of stuff do you do while you're here?
I just help out. You know what I mean? Do whatever I can do to make it better on these guys. You know what I mean? Because it's obviously, you know what I mean?
Because we're old, and he's
being
not.
He's being nice enough to say. Yeah, somebody's gonna get a shovel and dig a hole. Maybe it's gonna be Richard.
This is for radio, and he's like, you see what I mean, right? These knees, they work.
Yeah. So yeah. I just help out where I can make a difference at, you know what I mean?
Claire Morneau of CISA.
I just wanted to ask, so we talked a little bit about Gardening the Community and your role in that. That's an organization that has a food justice, racial justice piece at its core. And I know that you are part of a collective that organizes anti-racism trainings. And I'm just curious how you see this project sort of fitting into a broader anti-racist agenda.
Well, I really believe that all of us need to be organizing to undo racism wherever we are. And that includes us, especially as white folks who've been benefiting from the system. And so my organizing has been nurtured by so many people over the years, and this collective that puts on the Undoing Racism workshops as well. So I've brought that passion right into this work, and I see a farm like this in terms of how it builds community and connects people and its role in the community as being an amazing platform for undoing racism, for doing in an anti-racist way. First, building connections, real relationships with folks. And then within the network, Richard is an example of somebody who came to us through the relationships we have here. We got a request from some folks doing organizing around some of the ways that the immigrant community is being, treated right now. And we were asked to participate in that. And we were able to find people in our network here who were very excited to be part of some of that work, even partnering with CISA, partnering with UMass for the extension to have an urban ag program for the first time came out of all of this organizing work happening in the food system, in the agriculture system. We could do so much more if more farmers, and food system people got on board, and we see it as our responsibility to try to make that happen through our connections and relationships. And, policy, HIP, for example, trying to get that funding back. GTC piloted HIP when I was there. We can't even accept HIP here because it's been closed to additional farms.
And that's, again, the state-run Healthy Incentives Program that reimburses people that are on SNAP to incentivize them to buy fresh, healthy vegetables and such.
That's right. People come here. They don't know anything about HIP, so we tell them about HIP, and then we send them to GTC. Or how many places take HIP? There's McKinstry over in Chicopee. There's GTC. There's the mobile market. That's not up yet. And then we say, save some dollars for that, and then you can spend your SNAP dollars here. I bring that organizing spirit. I think we're just trying to cultivate the desire to see that what, like Ariana talked about, we need system change. Having this little farm is wonderful, but it's not going to change the system unless we really engage in that work. Or access to farmland for farmers of color, for indigenous people who had the land stolen or taken many years ago, trying to get it back. The rematriation organizing work that's happening. There's a lot of organizations out there doing this really important work that we can try to link with and support in some way.
It seems like this was stumbled upon as happy accident, and I understand that there's probably not going to be a real answer to this question, but how many other unoccupied agricultural parcels do you think might be in Springfield that people just kind of don't know about? There's a lot of looks, but it's a question to think about.
It's for all of us to think about.
For everyone to think about, just because
no matter where we live. Yeah.
If you think about it, most of the places are a majority of like trying to build different things other than like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having property to build stuff like this.
Yeah. Because housing's a crisis at the same time, but yeah.
I mean, there's many abandoned lots in Springfield, but there's a lot of barriers to setting up and beginning to grow on those lots. There's the quality of the soil. There's water access. To put in water is $10,000 to $20,000 right there. And we haven't been able to get funding for that sort of thing. Food Policy Council is working hard on those kinds of barriers here.
I mean, it's ironic. The name of the city is Springfield. You would think that water in a field would be something that we should prioritize in the city of homes.
The city of homes and not the city of farms, so...
Yeah. Well, maybe we can change it. Maybe it can be both.
We're going to the city and asking for permits for various things or telling them what we're doing, and because we're more than 5 acres, we are exempt from the zoning restrictions that Springfield has on certain kinds of farm animals, for example. You can't have farm animals under 5 acres. But we fall under a Mass state statute that says anything 5 acres and over is considered a farm and therefore exempt. On the barn work, we're going to have electrical permits and plumbing permits and all of that. But this would be disallowed if we didn't have that exemption because it's such a large structure. And the city has been learning with us. Like, we're sending them copies of the statute, and they're doing research about their own zoning restrictions and kind of coming to agreement, yes, you're exempt. You know, we've really had to kind of develop that relationship and work together to figure out how to do what we're doing here.
And this is why the legislation that's before the state to reduce 5 acres to 2 acres is so important for urban ag, because it's intensive farming. It's not like, hey, you grow corn. We're growing 2 to 3 crops on a row. You can get a lot of food off a couple acres. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have that exemption, it's just too hard to build up the infrastructure to make it happen.
Ariana, now that you've been a part of this farm for 2 years, do you see MLK building youth after-school programs to encourage more of a move through like GTC and places like this to kind of get kids more into farming and gardening?
Yes. No need to reinvent the wheel, let's just say that. Gardening the Community does that, and I think that there are a lot of opportunities for us to enter into the world, I will say, because there's already a world of food justice and things that we try to be a part of. We have an emergency food pantry, but a lot of people that come to that pantry have diabetes and, high blood pressure, and they need more than just food access. They need education. I'm thinking about those things. I'm thinking about how I can connect to the organizations that exist and how to get the kids involved, and also intergenerational. Food is amazing and a part of it, but the education and the community that you get that I think we really need after, post-COVID, it can be built here.
It's so nice to know of this being so close to my house.
Who would have thunk that there would be this little farm in Springfield right on the border with Chicopee?
There needs to be more little farms strewn throughout cities.
Yeah,
Full stop.
It's so amazing to me when people come here for the first time. I mean, folks from the South, folks from Puerto Rico, folks from Jamaica or Trinidad, folks from Russia, Greece. They come and they're like, this reminds me of home. And they start to talk about like how their family grew things or what things are important to them. And I'm just like, come and be here, just come when you need it. The land is such an amazing support to us. And if we live in balance with it, and take care of it, are good stewards, and people really feel that when they're here.
Thanks again to Ann and Todd and Richard and Ariana from Nordica and Claire Morneau from CISA. Now we'll head just north of Nordica Community Farm to see a flock of films in Hampshire County.
Chris Ferry, Jeremy and Rebecca Maycomer Dubs and Chris Goodwin give us the rundown on the upcoming East Hampton Film Festival and the feature film Tallywhacker being shown as part of the festivities.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy. Admissions now open for graduate programs in 2025. Learn how to become a changemaker at umass.edu/SPP.
Hi! Did you see the comments on our videos? Everyone's focused on the disability.
So what? They're watching us.
We got an offer to open for Carly Major on Wednesday.
I forbid you from coming.
You can't forbid me from going. I'm your mother.
Do you know the guitar parts to my first 2 albums?
Yeah?
Great. You're hired.
This Thursday through Sunday, The East Hampton Film Festival returns to guess where? East Hampton. And joining us is the director of the East Hampton Film Festival, Chris Ferry, who is not only the festival director, is a film director, and as we now know is an actor, because we saw the movie you were in, Urban Ed, where you played a teacher that was at the Boston International.
I haven't seen it yet. You've seen it?
Oh my God.
The other star of the movie, when we had her on, and the director, she had not seen it yet either.
She is great.
She really is
great.
The Star is Born.
Yeah.
She's in one of the films that we're screening this year, too, but I was on set with her, and I was like, who's this? She's amazing.
Yeah, and you can go into the archives and listen to that conversation, but we
I
have
will do.
2 future stars of a movie that will be screened at the East Hampton Film Festival.
Who've taken their film all over the country and finally get to show it here in Western Mass.
Where it was filmed, and the film is Tallywhacker, and the stars are not only rock star, now film star, and also municipal government star, Northampton City Councilor for Ward 4, Jeremy Makeover Dubs.
Hello.
And Rebecca Makeover Dubs, who also is in the film and also happens to be married. And the producer of the film, right? Is that true?
Associate producer.
Associate producer of the film, Tallywhacker. So is it fair to say, Chris, that Tallywhacker is the premiere film of the East Hampton Film Festival? Or for our purposes, because the stars are here, we should say that one way or the other?
Sure, absolutely. We are not premiering the film. It has been screened, but it's absolutely, we're doing 2 screenings of it on Friday night, a 5 p.m. and a 7 p.m. 7 p.m.'s already sold out. Still got a few seats for 5, so don't delay.
And it would be the Western Mass premiere of the movie, though.
Yeah, so this is really cool.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty exciting.
Where is it going to be screened at the festival?
Yeah, so we're going to screening it at East Hampton Media in the Eastworks building. And we're going to do a talk back with Jeremy and Chris Goodwin, his co-star and co-producer, after each screening. And then we're going to have a big party across the hall where the eponymous Tallywhacker is going to play live with some other special musical guests.
Well, let's talk about eponymous Tallywhacker. First of all, it's going to be fun to just say Tallywhacker a lot and to see how the folks that work here deal with it. But it is the name of a movie, and it is the name, for our intents and purposes, a band. So will you tell us the origin story of Tallywhacker, Jeremy Makeover Dubs?
Yeah, well, it is now a band, but it started off as a fictional band that was created by our writer and director and producer, Brendan Boogie. He wrote the film, and it's about this band called Tallywhacker. And in order to get ready for the film, Chris Goodwin and we had to start practicing a lot and rehearsing in our practice space and getting ready for the movie. And we sort of became a band in the process. And we performed the songs in the movie. And this will be our first time actually performing as Tallywhacker live. And so we're really excited about it.
It's really exciting. And for people that don't know Jeremy's career, he not only is part of the band Bunnies, but also has played with Pixies and is in tight with Black Francis, a.k.a. Charles Thompson, and sometimes will do the solo shows with him. So like I said, bona fide rock star already.
Yeah, for sure. What has been the reception of Tallywhacker at the other places you've taken it so far?
It's been amazing. We have not expected such great response. We actually won a few awards at some of the festivals, which was amazing. The one in Boston that we won, what was the award? I forget which award.
Special jury prize.
We won the special jury prize, but that night, Brendan, our director, he told us we should just go back to our hotel because he was like, "Yeah, we're not going to win." There was an award ceremony, and we just decided to go back to our hotel. We were watching Saturday Night Live, and he texted us that we won an award.
It's more rock and roll to not be there when you win the award.
That's true.
That's like sending Patti Smith to take your Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're speaking with 2 of the stars and filmmakers behind the film Tallywhacker that was filmed here locally and will be screened here locally for the first time at the East Hampton Film Festival, which is going this whole weekend. Can you tell us a little bit of the story of the film Tallywhacker?
Yeah, so it's about 2 guys that are friends, best friends, in a band together. It was loosely based on my experiences as a musician with a disability, and Brendan, the director, he met up with me about a year before we got into the filming of the movie, and he interviewed me and asked me lots of questions about what it's like to be disabled and questions about my personal life, my love life, my relationship with my mom, and that kind of thing. And he wrote a whole movie based off of it, basically. And it was mind-blowing for the fact that he followed through with it, that he said that he wanted to write a movie based on my experiences, and then he actually did it. When reading it for the first time was just so amazing, and and it was a good script, and it was really funny. And I think that it's great because it's a story about a disabled person, but it's not about being disabled. It's just about a guy in a band and his friendship and hanging out with his friends. And through watching this movie, you get to experience life as he, through his eyes, and you get to hang out with him for the whole movie, and then you kind of learn about what it's like to be disabled just from watching him experience life, go through the world.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What was it like being associate producer of this movie? What did that entail?
Yeah, because I think people hear the word producer a lot and they're like, what does that even mean? So we've got one here.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
What does that mean? In part, it was financial contributions.
Right.
So that was one part. I will say, though, because a lot of it, some of the interior scenes were shot in our house. So for me, the way I kind of also looked at that credit is I had to kind of be our own set dresser and kind of creating the ambiance, and even just like, I remember picking out the books in my bookshelf that would reflect Alistair's mom. That's the character that Jeremy plays. His mom's Bonnie, what she would like to read, and so I remember like curating the bookshelf
Nice.
so that would be reflective of what his mom would read.
And you're in the movie too. Who are you in the movie?
Yeah, so I am Melissa. I'm the bass player in Carly Major's band that Alistair, the character Jeremy plays, the band that he joins. I also I'm with Piper Preston, who plays the drummer. It was a really fun experience working with Rivera Reese, who plays Carly Majors. Who's like this rock star that we just kind of, Piper and I kind of get join along, we're kind of just on the road for the ride. And it was a really fun process, even though we didn't do rehearsals prior to playing together, but we definitely started to feel a bit like a band. And that was a really fun process to see, and also really important having musicians that are performing, in a film, that they're actually musicians. And so that was kind of important to us.
How did the music that you made for Tallywhacker, the band, and the movie, that's going to get real circular very, very quickly, differ from what you make with Bunnies?
Well, that's interesting because I would say that Tallywhacker has a similar sound to what my music used to sound like maybe 20 years ago when I was in a band still, but we were called the Bennies instead of Bunnies. and we were a little bit more of a straightforward rock band, with kind of a poppier sound. And so that's kind of a little bit of the influence of how Tallywhacker sounds. And then Brendan, the director, he wrote the theme song, the Tallywhacker song. Well, we co-wrote it together, but he wrote the main part, the chorus that is so catchy. Tallywhacker, 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 Tallywhacker. And then some of the songs are actually old songs of mine, cool. From the band that I was in a long time ago. Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
Jeremy, when he was writing the movie, did he write it with the intention of you always being the person who would star in the movie?
Yes, exactly, yeah, which was really cool. Yeah, he kind of had this trust in me, and I had never acted in a film before. So I'm really glad that he trusted me, and hopefully I didn't let him down.
We're speaking about the East Hampton Film Festival, which is happening this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in East Hampton with two of the stars and producer of the movie Tallywhacker, which was filmed here locally in the Valley and stars Jeremy Makeover Dubs and Rebecca Makehomer Dubs. And we're with Chris Ferry, the director of the East Hampton Film Festival. In addition to the two stars of Tallywhacker that we have here in the studio, joining us via means of digital technology, we have Chris Goodwin. Chris, what's your role in Tallywhacker?
I play Emmett, the drummer of the band with Jeremy, and I'm one of the producers on the film.
Jeremy, you're a drummer and a guitar player, so was it hard for you to choose which to be for this movie, or was it always...
That's a good question, actually, because I actually did suggest at one point to Brendan, I was like, I'm a drummer too, I could play drums in the movie, but I think he really wanted me to be the guitar player, so I went with...
Are you saying guitar players are more front people than drum people?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go there, but I think that might have been...
Phil Collins and Don Henley want to talk to you.
So take a look at me now. They just can't kill the beast.
I mean, Anderson .Paak is out there too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Check it out. I be catching you staring. Be careful, the idle mind is a dangerous place to be left in. To keep your eyes.
Chris, how did you get involved in the movie?
The director who wrote the movie, I think he had spoke to Jeremy before, and then he reached out to me. He lives out in LA, but he came from Boston. I had met him a couple times on I never worked with him before in a movie, but we were both musicians in the Boston local scene for a while. I played guitar and bass for a while. So he didn't know if I could actually play drums, which I'm still not. I mean, I can fake them enough to play them in a movie. But luckily enough, I got asked to do it because he knew I was still in Boston, could help with actually getting the music down and practicing singing with Jeremy and things like that. So I'd never worked with him before though, so he took a risk, just assuming I could do it. So
yeah, he kind of took a risk on both of us.
Now that Tallywhacker's a real band, are you still playing drums?
I'm more comfortable. So when he casted me as it, I bought an electronic drum set just so as I had a way to practice because I hadn't played in a while. I used to play, when I was younger, we'd have jam spaces and you have all the instruments there, so I'd go there and play all the instruments just whenever I had time. But so I bought an electronic drum set, practiced that as much as I could. Now it's in my office at work, so it's in a hospital because I got too many noise complaints in my apartment. So,
yeah, it's better to rehearse in a hospital, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, they're so drugged up, they can't hear anything.
They actually enjoy it. Yes, it's part of the healing process.
Oh, my goodness.
There are just too many things that can happen when you're on the road.
Let me take you out for a drink.
You seem like a really cool dude, but I just can't envision myself ever having sex with you.
That's fine. I can envision it enough for both of us.
More coming up with the cast of Tallywhacker and the East Hampton Film Festival as we discover what other events folks can engage with this weekend and what locations viewers might recognize from right here in Western Mass in their film.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We continue our conversation with cast members from the film Tallywhacker, Jeremy Macomber Dubbs and Rebecca Macomber Dubbs and Chris Goodwin and Chris Ferry from the East Hampton Film Festival happening this weekend.
You feel bad for me? Most people do. I would understand if you did.
We're supposed to be a band. We're supposed to be doing all this together as a band.
We are doing it together.
You're doing it. I'm your roadie, man.
Jeremy and Rebecca, who know the area better, what are some, when we watch this movie as people who live in the 413, what are going to be some of the places that stand out that we're like, oh yeah, I know that place? Because that's one of the most fun parts for me when I see movies that are filmed here locally. I know that's Shelburne Falls. I know that street. I know that bridge and Turner. What are we going to see in Tallywhacker?
Well, there's a scene filmed in the Marigold in East Hampton.
Nice.
There is a scene filmed at 10 Forward in Greenfield.
Yes. May it rest in peace.
Being revived as an entirely new thing.
It's a really cool location.
It's a great location.
That was a great location. Oh, wow. There's all kinds of places. We filmed in the old radio station that you used to work at across the street from where I live, you know.
Is Joan Holiday in the final cut?
Joan Holiday is in the movie.
Because you did ask me to be in it and I couldn't make it.
That's right, yeah.
And so now I'm going to live with regret for the rest of my life that I'm not in Tallywhacker.
That's right. She has a pretty good scene. I have to admit, she's pretty good.
She's way better than I would have been in it.
Whatever.
No, there's a scene in the parking garage in Northampton. There's some drone shots that are really beautiful.
Those are gorgeous, yeah.
Of above Northampton. It's so gorgeous, yeah. Scenes of the van driving across the bridge. What bridge is that?
The Coolidge?
Coolidge Bridge, yeah. It's all really, great local shots.
Chris Ferry, Tallywhacker isn't the only movie that's part of the East Hampton Film Festival. There's lots of other stuff happening. You want to give us a highlights of what's happening Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the film festival?
Sure. Yeah, so we kick it off on Thursday with a screening of what I'm calling offbeat comedies at Abandoned Building Brewery. And then we're going to have an opening night reception after that. That's our Thursday. Friday's all about Tallywhacker.
Woo!
Saturday is our biggest day. We've got an incredible documentary screening. We've got a panel conversation with local professional screenwriters about taking a script all the way to what you can see on Netflix. And then we've got a screening we're calling It's Complicated, which is films that don't easily fit into a single genre. And then one of terrific dramas. And then we end the day with horror. Yes, at 10 p.m. So stay up late for that. And then on Sunday, we've got another panel discussion. We've got a block of films we're calling Queer Stories that explore the non-heteronormative experience in all of its range. And then a closing afternoon party.
I don't think that as a part of this festival in the past 2 years that we've talked to you about it, that comedy has been anything that was highlighted. What's important about making it a part of your festival this year?
It's sort of what you get. You get what you get. So you say, hey, I'm taking submissions, and then you get a lot of submissions, and then you sort through them and you see kind of what mixtapes you can make out of the good stuff that you've got. And so I've done a family-friendly screening before, and I didn't get a ton of that content this time around, so that's not happening this year. But comedy is really hard. And just to touch on Tallywhacker again, it's got enormous heart, but it's also genuinely funny.
Yeah.
I think comedy might be the hardest thing to pull off on screen. So you might get comedy submissions that aren't, we'll say, as successful as they set out to be. But this year we got a lot, so
cool.
We're going to do it.
Are they all from local filmmakers? Like, what are the criteria or criterion? I don't know. I know that's a closet that has to do with film.
I made a list of all the things that I want. I'm gonna go shopping. Cool.
To get into the film festival.
They don't have to be local. It's technically an international film festival because I like to keep a wide aperture.
Yeah.
But this year, 2/3 of the films we're screening happen to be.
Mm-hmm.
And by local, I just mean Massachusetts filmmakers. A lot of them are from literally right here in the Valley. But some of them are from the Boston area, out in Pittsfield, all over. You have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, right. Chris Goodwin, you're in Boston. What are the names of the other bands that you're in besides Tallywhacker?
I was in a band called Arms and Ears, and then the singer of that band started another one after COVID when a couple people decided to have families and grow up. This is a band called Warrens, and there we play out of Boston, New York, things like that.
Fun.
Compare and contrast Boston to your time coming out to film this movie Tallywhacker and experiencing the 413.
You guys drink a lot heavier beers. I don't think I was prepared for it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm usually just like a go out, drink a Bud Light type of guy. When you go out into Western Mass, it's a lot more craft than that. You get the evil eyes if you don't.
Yeah.
The amount of weight I put on drinking craft beers in Western Mass was both enjoyable and just a lot to work up.
So that's why the screen adds weight.
Yeah,
the
not
craft
that
beer. I thought it was actually the camera.
It's because of the camera. And
how long did Tallywhacker take to film?
It took exactly 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did it really
2
fast, just nonstop. We had 2 days off in the course of those 2 weeks. So it was actually just 12 days of filming. And it went by really fast, but it was also like a really intense time, just like working every day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day.
That is a really short production time.
Yeah.
Do we know what the future for Tallywhacker is after the East Hampton Film Festival? Because the 7 o'clock screening, you said, is already sold out, so there are some earlier screenings that day. But what happens if we want to see it and we don't get into this film festival this week?
Well, we are wrapping up our film festival run. This will be our last film festival. And then our next step is to bring it to streaming. So there will be news on that at some point soon. I don't have news yet, but I promise that there will be something to share very soon about when we'll be releasing it on streaming services.
Excellent.
Cool.
Yeah.
The other cool Tallywhacker thing that's happening, we alluded to this, is the band is playing on Friday night, but other bands are playing too.
Yes.
Bands that we love.
Our band Bunnies is performing.
We perform.
And Rebecca is in Bunnies too.
And Rebecca is in Bunnies too, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But is Spouse playing as well?
Spouse is they're going to be headlining.
There are theme music at the beginning of the show every time. So
yeah, and they have a song in the film as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they are related to the film, just like we are, yeah.
Yeah,
And-
they played it at their last show at the Iron Horse.
Oh, cool. Are they seen in the film, or is there music in the film?
Just their music is in the film.
That's
yeah.
still so cool.
It's still cool.
Now I regret even more that I didn't say yes to being in the movie.
Take the time. Go
I know. I
beyond
should have
screen.
made that. I should have made that.
Maybe you'll be in the sequel.
Oh, yeah, good. I love it.
Tallywhacker 2. The pedal hits the metal.
Yeah.
Workshops as a part of the film festival. You've got panels and things. And last year there was that really cool panel on women in horror that was fantastic. But the importance of networking as part of this, I know you've mentioned it before, but getting local people in this industry, many of whom don't realize how rich it is in filmmaking as a pool of folks who are involved in it. Talk about the importance of having that space to really converse about the craft and make those connections to make new things and see people with techniques that maybe you haven't been exposed to yet.
Yeah. So one of the things I've learned in doing this, and this is only the 4th year of the festival, but it's how community-centric every aspect of filmmaking is. And there's an enormous amount of talent in this area. I was surprised to find that a lot of folks don't even realize that and don't know each other. So we are starting up what I hope will be a monthly get-together of just casual, just a networking event that's going to go on every month somewhere in the area, whether it's East Hampton or Greenfield, or, we're going to figure it out. But I do workshops. We've done some great screenwriting workshops. The festival is really about celebrating community. Of course, it's about film. But I want to have people building these connections. I want filmmakers to meet each other and make other projects. I want the audience to get to meet the filmmakers, and if they're interested at all in making a film themselves, I want them to have the opportunity to take a workshop and learn how to do that, and then know the people that will help them make the movie that they just wrote. And, so I want a full 360. That's what I want to grow this into. And I'm looking for partners. So EastHamptonFilmFestival.com. Reach out to me. We'll talk. You don't show up to be in the movies. I know this about you.
That's true. I'm all talk.
Well, Tallywhacker 2, there's an opportunity there.
Is Tallywhacker 2 really in the works?
No, I mean, not exactly. I mean, we've talked. Not exactly.
Not exactly.
Not exactly. So you're saying there's a chance.
I love it. The East Hampton Film Festival returns this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have been joined by 3 of the stars of the film Tallywhacker and 2 of the producers. Chris Goodwin joining us in Boston, Rebecca Maycomer-Dubs here in the studio, and Jeremy Maycomer-Dubs, counselor Jeremy Maycomer-Dubs from Northampton, as well as the director of the film festival, a director and an actor himself who did a fine job in that movie that we screened the other day, Chris Ferry. If you want to learn more about the East Hampton Film Festival, you can go to their website, easthamptonfilmfestival.com. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for having us. We had so much fun.
And of course, we'll put links to all of that in the show notes as well.
Yes. The next Fabulous 413, getting extra collegiate.
And extra Amherst-y.
We'll take our word nerd, Emily Brewster, to UMass because there's Falcon babies on the way. UMass digital content editor Lauren Hubbard shows us all there is to know about W.E.B. Du Bois's most famous residence. It's Falcons. The interesting connection to the name with our word nerd, and about those eggs that are about to hatch. We've been watching the Falcon cam. We watched them bring a blue jay into the falcon nest.
There's a whole buffet happening.
Moments
Hope that
ago.
You're okay with gore, because that's just the cycle of life,
It's
people.
nature.
It is indeed. And for the last day of Poetry Month, we head to Amherst College to talk with the staff of their literary journal, The Common. The publication has always had significant student input, so editor-in-chief Jennifer Acker and the student interns Kay Lim and Aiden Cooper give us some insight to the overlap between education and editorial oversight, and really what that curating that literature means for their educational careers. So cool.
It is very cool.
And why poetry matters, because poetry still matters.
And you don't have to stop poetry just because April ends either. So.
Exactly. All year round is a poetry thing.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We leave you with more Tallywhacker.
Well, this is actually Hedwig and the Angry
Or
Inch.
Hedwig. Oh, it is Hedwig. We didn't get to talk to him, so I forgot.